Shalom, family. Good to see everyone here. Hope you're doing well. Well, Donald Trump has been very vocal this morning about Ilhan Omar, and he's been calling for not only for her to be deported, but for her to be arrested. And, there's still chatter about her being part of the fraud. If you've been following her career, she went into Congress with nothing. She had no money at all. Her income was zero. All right. So she was just another Somalian in her community that didn't work. They said like 80% of them don't work at all. And in a short period of time, she went from that to $30 million. That's why there are so many, and she is being investigated for fraud. And the rumor is, and I think they said they got evidence that she married her brother. Now, her brother husband, the last I heard, he was no longer here in America. Now, she is still here, of course, because she's now, she's a congresswoman. But from what I understand, he's not here anymore. But it was just to get citizenship. And, and that's a form of fraud. You married your brother. That's disgusting for one. And yeah, I mean, just the thought of that. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get into this because Donald Trump, this old cranky old man, he sure got a lot to say. But one thing, he don't mince his words when it comes down to Ilhan Omar. He can't stand her. He seriously can't stand her at all. So please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you. Thank you.
Your own administration alleging Ilhan Omar's marriage to her brother. And this would be a fraudulent situation if there, in fact, is found to be fraud in a situation like that. Would you like to see her denaturalized or others who have similarly committed
Well,
fraud
I think
in
she's
Minnesota?
very bad for our country. All she does is complain, complain, complain. She comes out of a country where they have no government, they have no military, they have no police, they got no nothing. They don't have a country. And they run around killing each other. And then she comes over here. She tells the United States of America how it should be run. We don't want to hear from her. I don't want to hear from her. But I just want to say that
President,
there's nothing worse than a person that comes in and does nothing but bitch and comes from a place where she shouldn't be telling us what to do. She shouldn't be telling us. And everybody agrees with me. And what's happening in Minnesota with Somalia, where billions of dollars is being stolen, right? Like candy from a baby. We're not going to let that go on. And it's too great a state to have that happening. And guys like Tom Emmer and others, Pete Stauber, guys like them, they're going to stop it. And they're going to be given the authority to stop it. Because this country's not going to put up with it anymore. We intend to imprison any fraudster, politician, or public official involved in these sick plots to loot and pillage our country. Think of that Ilhan Omar. She lives in Somalia. They don't have a government. They don't have a military. They don't have police. They don't have anything. All they have is murder and robbing ships, bringing in ships, pirates. That's stopped. Same missile, ping. That's the end of them. It's amazing how that can stop corruption. Those missiles, they never miss, The same one, exactly the same one. But think of it. She comes from a country with nothing.
Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because what just happened on CNN has the entire country talking. Ilhan Omar, she thought she could go on national television, trash the legacy of Charlie Kirk, and walk away without consequences. But instead, she ended up humiliating herself so badly. that even CNN's Caitlin Collins was stunned in the silence. That's right, guys. CNN, the safe place for Democrats, suddenly looked like the enemy because Omar was so extreme, so vicious that Caitlin Collins really had no choice but to push back. Now, folks, it didn't stop there. In fact, President Donald J. Trump himself, aboard Air Force One, didn't just respond. He dropped the hammer. He flat out demanded that Ilhan Omar be impeached and even suggested Somalia should take her back. And as if that wasn't enough, you now have GOP firebrand Nancy Mace and even golf legend Phil Mickelson joining the chorus saying the exact same thing. Deport her. Drop a deport her in the comments down below if you want to see Ilhan Omar deported out of the United States ASAP. Send her back. America has had enough. This is a meltdown of epic proportions. In fact, a CNN disaster, a political backfire that is so severe that Omar has not only embarrassed herself again, but this also triggered a tidal wave of outrage that is it's uniting conservatives, independents, and even people who are far outside of politics. So today I want to go ahead and break down this humiliation, the backlash, and of course, the biggest reason why President Trump is seizing this moment to lead. Hit the like button, subscribe, folks. All right, let's go ahead and start with the shock factor, shall we? In the days following the tragic death of Charlie Kirk, one name shot to the very top of the headlines. Ilhan Omar. She wasn't trending for sympathy. She was trending, hell, she wasn't even trending for respect. She was trending because of her vile comments and the shocking way that she handled herself on CNN. And here's the real kicker, guys. Even CNN's Caitlin Collins, of all people, yes, CNN's Caitlin Collins, suddenly she looked stunned, almost kind of like she didn't even recognize the guest that was sitting across.
More accuracy of information, as they say, they're the most transparent administration, which is the biggest lie told on American soil, I believe. It is the least transparent. It is the most corrupt. It is the one administration I have seen lie to us, even though we have an accurate documentation of their lies, even if we are witnesses to the lies.
What happens when a state stays silent for years and then suddenly snaps? Because this story starts in Minnesota, but it centers on Ilhan Omar, and it ends up pulling in patriots from all over the country who are asking the exact same question. How did this go on for so long?
Still have not heard a single case in this search where someone who was a criminal, undocumented, being picked up from the street.
Create the environment, and then you complain about the consequences. When you kick over a beehive, don't complain when the bees after you.
One of those
Poke a bear. Don't
you
say, I can't believe the bear's chasing me.
You have a right to stand there and yell at
That's not what we were talking about. We were talking about you guys are deliberately creating an environment so that there is chaos. And when there is chaos, you go, oh my God, someone gets hurt. What do you expect
They're trying to create chaos. What they're
these organizations desire chaos.
going in and
How naive are you?
And it wouldn't be that you wouldn't have this chaos.
Now, for years, people raised concerns. For years, they were told to sit down, shut up, and stop asking questions. And for years, Minnesota stayed quiet until it didn't. And so now those same questions are everywhere on national television, in federal agencies, and across the country. News Nation is now running investigations. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, they're stepping up their enforcement. And with Donald J. Trump back in the White House, the message out of Washington is very different than it used to be. Now, this used to be about rumors, but not anymore. It's not about fringe voices, and it is definitely not about something staying local. People are angry right now, not because they hate Minnesota, but because they feel betrayed. They feel like they got played, and they also feel like they got ignored. Now, on top of all of that, they feel like the rules were enforced on them while somebody else just kind of laughed it off. So tonight, we're going to go ahead and walk through exactly what finally broke, why Ilhan Omar is at the center of all of it, and how something that was supposed to stay quiet inside of Minnesota just went fully national. Because once you see this timeline laid out, you're going to understand exactly why the silence didn't just end, it collapsed. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It is totally free. All right. Now, for years, Minnesota looked calm on the surface. Elections came and went. The same political figures stayed in place. And when questions popped up about fraud, misuse of funds, or even strange money flows, the response was always the same. Ignore it, dismiss it, or maybe even label it dangerous to even talk about. So this wasn't because people didn't see the warning signs. This was actually because institutions froze. State agencies, local officials, even the political leaders, they were so paralyzed by one overriding fear that scrutiny itself would be framed as prejudice. So nothing moved, no one pushed, and this is what created the quiet. Not innocence, not clarity, inertia. But silence like that doesn't last forever. It builds pressure. And when pressure finally breaks, it doesn't crack politely, it snaps. This is the moment that Minnesota just hit. Now, what finally broke the silence wasn't ideology, it was scale. The allegations that were piling up in Minnesota, they weren't about one program or one mistake. They involved daycare subsidies and medical transport billing and shell operations allegedly tied to Somali-run businesses that are operating at industrial levels.
Was the business side. And it's kind of obvious. You find a loophole inside of the government and some of the subsidy money which can be paid to these kinds of facilities.
Silly me. I thought Fox News was more of a Republican channel, but apparently not. Listen to this. They call Trump constant complainer. President Trump turns up the heat against Rep. Ilhan Omar, claiming the Minnesota lawmaker hates the USA and should be either locked up or deported. Wow. Okay, tell us how you really feel. Her face is priceless because I imagine her, that's the facial expression she has when she's thinking of Trump. We all know her feelings. Okay, so should she be in jail or even worse punishment, sent back to Somalia, considered one of the absolutely worst countries in the world? Now, although I do believe people that are born outside of the USA shouldn't be elected politicians in the USA just because you were subjugated to the possibility of them being spies, infiltrated from other countries, take them down from within, yada, yada, yada. Not accusing her of doing it. I'm just saying the religion in per se that these people follow says, go, attack, infiltrate the infidels from within and destroy them. So that's my take on it. But should she be deported? Are we having this getting deported? Is it getting out of hand? I don't know. What do you think?
All right, well, I'm back at the first on that echo with yours truly. My name is Rod. I am the higher, and I'm we're the first, and so we're jumping into this video about Ilhan Omar, her names for now. This is totally off the pathway for the things that I like talking about on this channel. I don't necessarily do political conversation unless it's pertaining to Mark Kelly or something better related. This is like I say off path, but I feel like it's a necessary conversation really quickly. So the administration, President Trump directly, shall I say, is saying that he wants Ilhan Omar in jail or moved back to Somalia. His words, not mine. The administration and the president seems to feel as though that Ilhan Omar knew something about the fraud that the Somali community has been accused of committing in Minnesota. And so the president is saying, president slash the administration is saying, there is $19 billion in the Minnesota Somali fraud. Fake Congresswoman, we know like talking fake Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, a constant complaint in the U.S. No, everything there is no, she should be in jail or even murder time.
The United States that are okay for peoples.
I'm worried they respect the U.S. or USA that are shape once you got your the US some states.
Well, listen, I actually had to say conflict in the middle of all one. I think she is served as the perfect poster child why we need to close the war. And why you get this up in the board of the TV for all countries who have no respect for this country, no respect for our laws and those who would before.
This is I'm saying for directionally. I thought I would agree with the Fox News host there. But my thing is as a country, the United States should treat all of the citizens the same. And that really would come down to U.S. citizens as a whole, because we don't have the moral authority. The United States don't have moral authority to tell any other country how they should be living. When we have citizens here that are still suffering from racism, oppression, privilege, not getting privilege, etc. Women's rights are being violated. I mean, again, until we ourselves can clean under our own house, we don't have really any of the moral authority to chastise any other country overseas. But just to kind of going back to this lady here, I would just say I would lose any sleep if the president or his administration some kind of way got her out of Congress and got any other representative. So let's talk about it. Let me know your thoughts. And again, I'm not being biased. I just don't care her. I just don't like her. So my name is Rod, and you're a retiring corporate sergeant. I will see you in the next video.
Okay, I don't know why the audio got messed up at the end, but it did. So the bottom line is Ilhan Omar, Donald Trump, he can't stop hating on this woman out in the media. That's why I'm telling you, I know they're working behind the scenes trying to figure out any way they can to get her the hell up on out of here. And in all honesty, I think they are. I think they're going to do, even if it's illegal, they're going to get her butt the hell up on out of here. They don't like her. They don't want her. They're tired of her. And she really don't say enough about all the fraud going on in her community. She's always defending it. I've heard her on video defending it all the time, but she doesn't condemn it at all. And many of them don't. If you go look at the Somalian videos online, they do not condemn the fraud that's going on in their community. That's how you know their complicity tells me they themselves were involved. And like I said, explain how 80% of you are not working. You know, that tells me when you got here, your intent was never to work, was to live off of the system. And I was also reading in Sweden. Sweden is throwing the Somalians out. They're tired of them. They're doing the same thing over there. And they're tired of them abusing the system. You know, they'll come, get on some food stamps and housing assistance, and then they stay permanently using those things. And I don't see, because she tried to say they were the fabric of this country. No, you're not. You're the users and abusers of this country. You mofos are not contributors. You're not. When you look at how bad the scamming was, a big portion of them were in on, they would have had to be in on it in order for 80% of them not to be working. The majority of them were in on the scamming, and they were getting some kind of money out of it to survive. And, you know, that's why I don't pay any mind to their videos. Oh, we did this all in a generation. Yeah, but you didn't do it without scamming. Okay, that's the part you're leaving out. You didn't do it in a generation without scamming. And other states are now coming forward. They want them out. Maine, Ohio, you know, there's like communities of them, but see, Minnesota is the largest amount of them here in the US are in Minnesota. But there are areas where they are, and I believe there's some in Michigan, and they're scamming. Everywhere they are in this country, they're scamming. So no, you don't get to get on a pedestal bragging about doing something in a generation and you got all that scamming. No matter where your people are in this world, they are scamming. So no, that's not impressive. That's not impressive at all. And Iowa too. Yeah, I mean, everywhere they are scamming. So no, nobody's impressed that you did something in a generation and you also got all that scamming. Nobody's impressed. So y'all, I will have hopefully LVZ and the True Royal family at 7, and we're going to talk a little more about the new Black Panther and how they're taking this position to help Caribbeans and Africans and immigrants. And they are not even talking about our community and looking after us. They're not even mentioning it. So we're going to talk about this and talk about this Paul Songbird that nobody ever seen or heard of before, and he just pops up out of nowhere. So we're going to get more into that. So y'all, thank you so much for being here. But we'll see. Donald Trump gave them a deadline, March 17th. I want y'all to think about that date. That is our new year. Look at what's happening. He wants them out of here on our new year. Okay, that date is coming up for a reason. And he's given them a warning. He wants these Somalians out of this country by March 17th. That's their deadline. So we shall see. If they're not gone, I'm sure it's going to get a lot more rough and violent up there with ICE dealing with them. So, y'all, I will see you at 7. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support. And I will see you later. Shalom, family.